behalf of the ELF, I extend a hearty welcome, big and warm enough to encompass you all. To say we are thrilled to see you is an understatement. The ELF is what it is today because of the goodwill and support of the staff and students alike. It is on this note of joy I once again welcome the dignitaries, staff, the participants on Zoom, and all our friends who have joined us through YouTube.
Thank you, Esther. As First Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 16 to 17 say, Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, in everything give thanks. In this moment of profound joy, let us give thanks to the Lord. On this note, I would like to invite Ms. Nandini Devi, the prayer secretary, and her team to lead us in prayer with a prayer song.
Blessed be your name in the land that is plentiful, where your streams are
the college. O thou, who in days past didst put it into the arts of good men to found this college, for the imparting of sound learning, the building of character, and the spread of spiritual truth and knowledge of thyself. Blessed college and schools, may love, unity, and brotherhood be learnt here. May industry, uprightness, and courage grow here. And from this place may there be sent forth continually a stream of men and women who shall serve thee faithfully in thy word. Amen.
Let's bow our heads for the prayer. Heavenly Father, my gracious Lord, thank you for, even though we are in the midst of this pandemic, thank you for bringing us all together in your presence, Lord. Thank you for bringing us all safe and sound, Lord. Lord, I'm praying for each and everyone who are attending this meeting right now, Lord. Lord, especially I'm giving the chief guest, Dr. Mangi, Lord. Thank you for helping ma'am join this meeting, Lord. Lord, I'm also giving our principal, Dr. Wilson, sir, all the professors and all the students of our department, Lord. Help us and bless our department, Lord. Father, as we have come here for the inauguration of the ELF, help us and bless all the activities that are going to happen under this ELF, Lord. Lord, guide us to do the right things, Lord, and help us to come up with more innovative ways, Lord. Lord, let not any activities that's going to be done under this cause any kind of hurt to anyone, Lord. Lord, bless us and be with us throughout this meeting, Lord. Let not any kind of internet connection problems happen in between, Lord. Lord, even though we are in the situation of chaos, Lord, Lord, help us to make this ELF a great success, Lord. Lord, as you have told, ask and it shall be given unto you. Lord, we are asking and praying in your name for the success of our English Literary Forum, Lord. I give each and everything in your hands, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Nandini and team, for that wonderful rendition. Thank you, Sharon Glowry from 2nd MA, for the heartful rendition of the college prayer. Thank you, Christine S. Jacob from 3rd BA, for the sincere and soulful prayer for the department. The head of the department, Professor Dr. Megla Rajan, has always been cheerful, spirited, and encouraging presence in the department. I now request ma'am to extend the warm welcome to the gathering.
Thank you, Esther. Good afternoon. The English Literary Forum has always been the lifeline of the department. Amazing activities spring from this, and our students have always given their heart and soul to participate and win laurels for the department. Therefore, this is a blessed day in the history of the Department of English, and I'm very happy to welcome all of you. It is my bounden duty to welcome our dear principal, Dr. Wilson, who with his rich research acumen is keen on accelerating activities towards holistic development. A warm welcome to you, sir. Our bursar supports all activities, and it is my pleasure to welcome him. The most important person today is Dr. Mangai, our chief guest, a busy and eternally cheerful person who can transfer her positive energy to those around. It is a privilege having you with us, and I extend a hearty welcome to you, ma'am. I'm pleased to welcome the faculty of the English department family whose cheerful support sustains and stabilizes the department. I'm delighted to welcome the former successful presidents of the ELF, Dr. Franklin Daniel and Professor Christina Dhanasekaran, and the present wonderful president, Professor David Abraham, and the vibrant student leaders, Ms. Esther Shakina Collins and Ms. Shivani. I welcome our student representative, Mr. Allen, and all our dear students who exhibit amazing potentials and incredible skills. I once again invite all of you to make use of this session to absorb what is shared and to execute them with charm and dignity to the glory of God. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for that genial welcome. Professor David Abraham Albert, the president of the ELF, has always been a bundle of energy whose optimistic outlook has brought solace and comfort to many. I now invite Sir to deliver the report on the ELF activities for the academic year 2019-2020. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Shivani. Before I could begin the report, let me thank God Almighty, Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, for keeping us safe through this pandemic, protecting, safeguarding us, and also for His immeasurable blessings on the Department of English and also on this great institution. Now to the report. The English Literary Forum of the Department of English is a reflection of the rich legacy of our esteemed institution, the Madras Christian College. The English Forum, or ELF, as it is known, taps the potential of students in the intention of bringing out the best in them for the benefit of not only the individual, but also the society at large. The main aim of the ELF is to help students shed their inhibitions and put their talents to the best use possible. The forum serves as a platform for the students from our college and also the students from various other institutions across the city to showcase their intellectual and artistic prowess. The inauguration of the English Literary Forum for the academic year 2019-2020 took place on the 29th August 2019 at the Center for Media Studies. Dr. Lillian Jasper, Principal, Women's Christian College, was the chief guest for the occasion. Over the years, our students have actively participated in various literary events and competitions across the city and have brought laurels not only to the department but also to the institution. To mention a few, Novella, conducted by the Stella Maris College for Women, Chronicles, conducted by Etherage College for Women, Athena, conducted by Etherage College for Women, Plexus, conducted by Guru Nanak College, PP Cauldron, conducted by Loyola College, Litfest, conducted by JPR College. Our students bagged the overall trophies at Woodstock, conducted by the Department of English, Self-Finance Stream, Madras Christian College, Go Wild, conducted by the Department of Zoology, Madras Christian College, Coffee House, conducted by the Department of English, Loyola College, Enchantia Literaria, conducted by the Department of English, SDNB Vaishnav College for Women. About Nimosine. Nimosine is a two-day literary and cultural fest of our department, which is considered the most sought after in the city. For the academic year 2019-2020, Nimosine donned the theme Film and Literature. It took place on the 27th and 28th February with Barum fame director Priya Krishnaswamy inaugurating the two-day literary festival. The festival also had various workshops on films conducted by eminent media persons, including Perambu fame director Ram, events such as jam, stress interview, filmy monologue, photography, and group events like Set a Tune, Popuri, and Quiz, all involving a filmy twist, took place on both the days, celebrating the creative talents of students. Day one was dedicated to the departments within MCC, and it was interdepartmental, while day two was an intercollegiate and witnessed artistic talents from other institutions. Nimosine 20 also had a unique gala of artwork creatively displayed on canvas, which was exclusively made by our department students. The event also got published as a story in the Times of India Education section on 25th February 2020. At this juncture, I would like to wish the office bearers, the chairperson Esther Shekina Collins, and the general secretary Miss Shivani, who had put in great efforts to conduct the inauguration of the ELF. I wish them all the best. God bless Madras Christian College. God bless the Department of English.
Thank you, sir. We are honored to have amongst us our principal and Secretary, Dr. Paul Wilson, widely renowned for his distinguished scholarship and able administration. I kindly request him to offer the felicitation.
Good afternoon, everyone. The head of the Department of English, Dr. Meghla Rajan, Professor David Abraham, and the speaker for the day, Dr. Mangai, and my faculty members and students. I always make it a point to make use of this opportunity to float my thoughts as a part of the vision for the college, so as to create an ecosystem that will be resonating with the vision of the college. English Literary Forum, where you make this opportunity to discuss literature in various forms. I'm very sure that theatre was well known for the Department of English because recently we lost a dear professor, Dr. Rajani. And I also come across, I worked with the students of English department during my responsibility in student Christian movement, wherein I have made use of many of your students for writing poems and lyrics. And apart from that, let me try to present before you that we are entering into a new dispensation because we keep amending the policies for the education. New education policy has arrived now. If you look carefully into the new education policy, gone are the days where we try to compartmentalize our language or literature confining to the Department of English. Now, the new education policy demands that we need to travel outside the department. And I know that you're all good at creative writing. You all are good at writing poems and theater. And I don't know about fictional writing. How many of you are interested in fictional writings? And if you look carefully into this present dispensation, wherein we have four important skills for the 21st century. One is creative thinking, the other one is critical thinking, then communication and collaboration. And if you look at the placement market, people are looking for people who possesses these skills. These four skills are, they have outlined these four skills are essential in order to market yourself for the different job opportunities. Our college has designed the curriculum in such a way that we have curricular aspects, co-curricular aspects, extracurricular aspects. How are we going to involve ourselves in various co-curricular and extracurricular activities in exploring our own self by assessing, subjecting ourselves to assessments by exploring ourselves and involving in all these activities, wherein we can find out or fine-tune our creative thinking and critical thinking. For English, I know very well that you study probably in PG the different forms of criticism, including textual criticism, literary criticism, and so on. At this particular context, I would like to remind you of literary criticism. How many of us have done a kind of a piece of work on literary criticism for your third CA? I'm just placing before you. It's not an activity of your literary forum. Why can't you think about exercising your ability to criticize, critique the text that you come across? I'm looking forward for converting all our third CA's, third internal continuous assessment for these purposes, wherein your 21st century skills can be developed. I'm sure that the time that you spend, the activities that you conduct, definitely would give you a way for thinking about different screenplay writers coming out from your literary forum. And I look forward for people who can write fictional materials like science fiction. As I said, we have to travel to the different department. I'm looking forward for English department traveling to science department where you create a science fiction as a part of your literary activity. So please think about it. We are entering into a different dispensation. I'm sure these kind of activities would help you to travel across the domains and exercise your creativity. Thank you for inviting me. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir, for that inspiring and thought-provoking address. I am sure we've all taken away many learning points from your address. Thank you once again. I now welcome Esther Chekina Collins, the chairperson of the ELF, to kindly introduce the chief guest for today.
Thank you, Shivani. A. Mangai is the pen name of the Batma, an academician and a former professor of English, theatre personality, an activist, researcher, and has been dynamically engaged in Tamil theatre as an actor, director, and playwright for almost 3 decades. Her fields of interest are theatre, gender, and translation studies. She has also researched extensively on Tamil theatre. She has twice been a recipient of Fulbright Fellowship to work on theatre and gender. Known for intensely political plays, Mangai has taken up popular female figures from both mythology and history and interpreted them as women with strong voices of their own. Mangai's journey with political theatre began somewhere around the 1980s when she, along with others, founded the Chennai Kalai Kuru, a left-wing theatre group, as part of her involvement with All India Democratic Women's Association. Mangai was also the founding member of Marapachi, both theatre groups committed to increasing the participation of women in theatre. The groups brought in women from different walks of life to Tamil theatre. Karippi, Sudalayamma, and in Avai and Manimegalai, classical Tamil texts are given a female reinterpretation in Mangai's hands. Her plays also critically examine contemporary issues through a gender lens. Pachamannu was on female infanticide. Anmayo Anmai was on the crisis of masculinity in the Tamil political space. These theatre groups played a huge role in drawing transgender artists. In all, she has directed 35 plays. Her latest play, staged by Marapachi on September 2nd, 2020, on Facebook Live, and is all about Black Lives Matters and marginalized voices in India. Her latest book, Acting Up Gender and Theatre in India, 1979 onwards, was published by Leftward in 2015, talks of how the mainstream imagination of the national kept women's theatre and groups like IPTA out of it during the freedom movement. Her style has been to draw, incorporate, and evolve from traditional modes of performance. Mangai's theatre is predominantly feminist, but if there is one word that would define her body of work, it is survival. This pandemic reminds us that the artists are the conscience keeper of the society, and we have one such great artist among us. I had the pleasure of listening to Dr. Mangai ma'am's talk in this lockdown period, and she is such a poised and vibrant speaker who left no stone unturned. It is a real joy to have Dr. A. Mangai ma'am amidst us. I would like to welcome Dr. A. Mangai ma'am on behalf of the English department. Over to you, ma'am.
Hello. Good evening. Yeah, is my voice clear?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Your voice is very clear.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I think a few more of you, if you want to switch on your videos, you can, because I'm already crazy and feel crazier when I'm speaking to, few faces. I'm so happy to be among elves today. I mean, I know about MCC ZLF for a long time now, but it just struck me at this moment, all that we need are elves with magical powers and with really long ears to listen to various things that are happening around us. So happy to meet you all at this moment, and it is very special to know that amidst all your academic work, which in itself is suspended because of all these pandemic and the restrictions of the online media and the rest. And I'm glad that the students are not giving up their own organizations. So it's really nice that the students have taken up this initiative. And from your last year's report, I'm very pleased, and I'm assured that Esther and Shivani have a lot of things lined up for all of you, both who are here on Zoom and people who are there on live. I just want to keep to my literature personality today and draw upon a few thoughts that I want to share with you as a kind of open conversation. But as you heard, my background actually comes with a lot of baggage, a really heavy baggage of gender, politics, translation, various theater, so I'm open to taking up any questions apart from the ideas that we are planning to share here in your discussions. It's 3:27 now. I'll take about 20 minutes, less than that maximum, and try and finish it by 3:45 so that we'll have solid 15 to 20 minutes for discussion. So feel free to write your questions. Those who are on Zoom can always kind of put in your questions. I'm broadly thinking of an umbrella title for myself called Beyond Curriculum. And I think no better place to really raise this at MCC with Rajani, of course, and a lot of dear friends who have always been pushing the boundaries of curriculum, be it Nirmal or Ganesh and the two Davids that are there and Uday, all of you. It's just lovely to be in your company. And so MCC has a very, very special place in my heart. And there is never a no from me when there's anything that is asked from MCC. Now, beyond curriculum is, I'm just kind of ruling out some of the things. The moment we think of curriculum, the imagination is to really think of a syllabus, a laid out practice of teaching, and a mode of evaluation. Now, I'm just trying to kind of go a little beyond. If we can include curriculum to what people call as participatory learning, very often it is initiated within the classroom and by the teachers. But I think organizations like ELF is really calling for peer learning and peer sharing. Now, that I think is something that is a conversation that is happening horizontally and not vertically. So this horizontal conversations are something that really calls for understanding of vulnerability, understanding of interdependence, and asserting the need of independence. So what I'm really kind of laying out, vulnerability, interdependence, and independence may seem to really counter each other, but I just want to kind of unpack that idea and tell you how it is not really completely devoid of whole thing. Now, as literature students, the question that is most asked, I don't know whether you come from a family of engineers and doctors and you're the only one who chose arts and that too literature, so that question would have come in your houses. I come from a family of 3 brothers who are engineers and 1 is a doctor, and all the daughters went in for humanities and arts. I mean, I don't think my parents connived it to be like that, but it was considered to be enough for girls to get into humanities and art. Somehow the men who get into these disciplines are treated as if they are not masculine enough. I'm sure that's open to question, and we will take it up for discussion. Now, what does this literature do to us, and what can it do to us, is I think a question for reflection for all of us, because I think literature, as a student of literature, it never ends. There is nobody on earth who can say, I know every single literary production that has come up to this year. No one. There's nobody who can say, because there'll be somewhere something that we have not really read. So literature is a subject which clearly keeps on reminding you that you are limited. But at the same time, it also tells us that there is no limit to our imagination, to our compassion, to our feeling empathy or sympathy or understanding. So these polarities of literature studies, as we call them, now very often among the major, I'm speaking like an ELT person here, where you talk about the 4 skills, and I'm glad Principal touched upon them, of how the corporate sector or the people who are going to employ you are coming up with fresh skills that they are marking out for us. But then the traditional skills that we talk about are LSRW, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, out of which speaking and writing are considered to be active skills. because you're producing something, you're hearing me talk. Now, the assumption when we say that speaking is active, is that the assumption is that listening is passive. I just want to question that hypothesis. Is reading and listening, are they really passive? So today, your scientists and doctors will tell you about active listening and active reading. So I think what I'm going to really focus on is only about active reading. Now, there are some of you who are postgraduate students, and therefore you would have come across theories where it is said that the author is dead, and therefore the readers have to really construct your text without going into the ramifications of either post-structuralism or reader response theory. We all know that as a reader, you build a text for yourself whenever you read something. Whether it is a poster that you're reading, whether you're reading some advertisement that is coming on TV, or you're reading a scrap of paper or a newspaper article, wherever you're doing, you are really building your own text based on what you bring to the text. Or in other words, each reader has a home, has an entry point into the text, whatever be the text. I mean, I'm just reminded of Tagari in Malayalam, the Malayalam writer, the great Malayalam writer, who said, to me, the world is Kuttanad. So for me, the world begins from here and probably ends here. So when somebody is talking about imaginary homelands, for example, what are they really talking about? The land that is there in your tongue when you taste a food that you had long forgotten, or you're wearing a particular fabric which you hadn't owned in a long time. So there is an entry point for all the texts that we are talking about. Now, my question is, as students of English literature, and I always say no capital E, no capital L, it's a small e and a small l, because English is a qualifier here and literature is just a descriptive term of that particular narrative. So it's a small l. Yeah, so we are not doing English literature, but we're doing English literature. Yeah, so it's a very, very, very open-ended, porous kind of text that we are talking about. And as students of Indian literature, as students of English literature from India, what do you think will be our home or our entry point? It would be things that you are already familiar with. Perhaps a little lullaby sung by your mother or your grandmother, or a story that you heard, or something that you heard in the church or the temple or the mosque, or any kind of annual festivals that you had seen as a child. So there is a way in which I think whichever linguistic region you come from, it plays a role in the reading of whichever text that you take from Latin America, South America, First Nations people, Canadian, Australian, New Zealand, name it. Any number of texts. And I think whatever be the text, we as people who are coming from a particular linguistic region in this particular nation and at this particular time, bring a certain reading into it. So therefore, for me, English literature is not complete if you're not aware of various other Indian language literatures, not to get an MA degree in Tamil literature or Sanskrit literature or Telugu or Kannada or Marathi or Hindi. We're not expecting that. But we should know that all those languages already have a tradition of literature, criticism, theory for over these many long years. So even in countries like South Africa, where, for example, Kikuyu, the language in which Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who wrote The Decolonizing the Mind, would talk about English education and what it did to English education. And Kikuyu did not have a Lipi, a script. So they really kind of invent a script for it, thanks to colonization. We are not saying no to colonization. It's a reality, and we all acknowledge that, and that is a legacy also that we will carry. But that does not cancel out the rest of the sense of who we are and where do we really belong. One of the questions that I always ask is, a language, I mean, which language do you think in? And it's always, I mean, I still don't have an answer, because I really think when I'm talking, for example, in a classroom, or I'm talking about some major theoretical concepts and the rest, it's probably English, because my whole introduction, exposure, everything came from that. But if I'm going to be talking about theater or about translation or about gender, and you really want to say how worse the male dominated system is in this society around us, and you really want to kind of burst out on the things that you don't like, your heart feels really satisfied when you say "Purukkitanama pesada." Even though I know to abuse in English, but none of those abuses are enough for me, because the way that's why I feel the language you can abuse a person by, or you get angry with a person. I don't know whether that has happened to you. My family of siblings who were all quite proficient in English, but when we fight, we switch to Tamil. So it really kind of becomes, I mean, I'm just using this as an example. I'm sure it comes when you're very sad, probably, or when you get very emotional. I still don't know. I mean, I have no problem saying I love you to as many people as possible in English, but I don't think it'll be that easy for me to say, Nanu unnai kadalikken. Nida ennoda kadal அப்படிங்கிற வார்த்தை வரணும்னா, I think it takes a lot from me. So therefore, I would say that the home or the entry point for us would be the multiple languages that this country is made up of. I don't think any amount of multilingual, multicultural, none of those terms really describe what is India to us. Now add to it the multiple narratives that are already prevalent in us, and we come with that. So when you're reading a Lorraine Hansberry, or when you're reading a Maya Angelou, I'm sorry, those are the only names that come to my mind because they are my favorites. But there are many people, for example, Singe or W.B. Yeats, among the classics. So that the rhythm of that language is interpreted by us from the rhythm that we are familiar with. Yeah, and rhythm is very, very difficult to capture. It is not just in the meter. It is in the cadence. It is in the texture of how you really pronounce the words, how you really internalize the narrative. Now, along with that, apart from the languages and the narratives, there is one more big, long and hoary tradition, and Amartya Sen points out that to us. So in his Argumentative Indian, I would strongly recommend that you read it, whether it is in the syllabus or out of syllabus. And I know students read most of the things out of the syllabus. So when texts are banned from syllabus, I'm happy, which means the students will seek out and read it. Because you're not going to be tested on that. You might as well just read and enjoy it. Nobody is going to ask you any questions. So thanks for removing Arundhati Roy. So now you have Amartya Sen, who actually tells us that there is a long tradition of accepted heterodoxy in India. And he's referring to the philosophical traditions that India is made up of. So whenever there are people who try and tell you, oh, India, then you have to know either Hindi, you have to know your Bhagavad Gita back and forth and things like that, you need to stop them and tell them, we had a king called Ashoka, and in our history books, they told us that he planted trees and he was a pacifist and everything. But now we are reading King Ashoka's edicts written in Brahmi script and in various other scripts because they are strewn over different lands. And those edicts have been sung by none less than T.M. Krishna. So you have T.M. Krishna singing Ashoka's edicts for you. And I just want to quote one simple passage there. There is no gift like the gift of justice. I'm not saying it. It is King Ashoka saying it. There is no gift like the gift of justice, like the celebration of justice, like participating in justice, right? Like relating to the gift of justice. Harmony is listening to reflections on justice. And this he says when he has won the war, and then he says, did I really win? And he gives up everything, and he was already Buddhist in his practice. Now, what really is needed in order to celebrate, to participate, to reflect on this justice? And that I'm going to take from another major writer and one of my most favorites, Audre Lorde, from the American. And I'm taking it from the 1970s. And then in one of her major path-breaking articles called The Master's Tools Will Never Dismantle the Master's House, written in 1979. And she was addressing a group of white, Eurocentric, middle-class feminists and telling them how race and homophobia are there within the women's movement. And she was talking about it as a fellow feminist, you know, as somebody who was also a feminist. And she was in other words, it was a fight among sisters who shared the same vision, but who also had difference. And then this is what she says. She says, difference must be not merely tolerated, but seen as a fund of necessary polarities between which our creativity can spark like a dialectic. Only then does the necessity for interdependency become unthreatening. Only within that interdependency of different strengths, acknowledged and equal, every single word is important there. So there is an interdependency of different strengths, acknowledged and equal, can the power to seek new ways of being in the world be generated, as well as the courage and sustenance to act where there are no charters. Yeah, so I think we are living in a world where our old charters are getting dismantled, and it is time for creating new charters. And these new charters are something that has to be created by the younger generation. So if you can really kind of acknowledge difference, acknowledge interdependency without having a sense of power, acknowledge the differences as equal, then I think the reading becomes active. So the three things that we need in making reading an active skill, an active work, so to speak, would be, one is criticality, which Principal was insisting upon, the critical reading, that the criticality that should be there in everything, not just literary texts, in anything that you really approach. And I'm drawing this word from Buddhism, conscious training. Buddha talks about being mindful. You know, so to be mindful of the words that we speak, of the way we relate to each other, of the way we look at people, of the way we consume things, everything, if we can be mindful. I mean, I'm aware tomorrow is Diwali and it is celebration, and I'm glad that we have something to celebrate amidst all this pandemic. But are we being mindful of the terrible inequities that were already there, deepened further now because of the pandemic? So what is going to be your idea of mindfully celebrating the Festival of Lights? Yeah, it's not going to be lighting one diya in your balcony, for sure. Yeah, and the third one is caring for the unheard. You know, so unless we develop and listen to the voices that are hidden in the spoken words, or that are lost between two words, then otherwise we will not really hear them. You know, it's like Toni Morrison's Beloved, where you really create the words, where fairness becomes disease. where memory becomes a verb, as she really uses it. So I think criticality, conscious training to be mindful, and caring for the unheard are something that is the need of the hour for ourselves and for the world and for the cosmic universe, which all of us are part of. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity. I'll end here, and I'm ready to take any questions as part of this, as part of other things. No question is a foolish question. Any sharing, it need not be a question, it can be a comment. It is the students' forum, it is your time and your space. Never let anyone else take your space. All the best.
The floor is open for questions. The Zoom participants can unmute their mic and ask their questions. And people who have any difficulties in unmuting their mic can use the chat box. And YouTube participants can put their questions in the chat box. Alan, our department rep, will be reading out the questions in the Zoom. And Shivani will be reading questions which are posted in the YouTube. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question on in the chat box from Sudesh Prabhakaran. How does she balance idealistic notions in a world which has been taught to go with the grain? And what suggestions who don't have the relatively safer space of academia and theatre? Thank you for that question. I mean, this is something that has been bogging me down. And I'm not even sure whether I do have the energy to be an idealist, but I just don't want to lose that grip over life. And I think at times, when times get difficult and they test you, I think we rise up, which is exactly like what Maya Angelou talks about, Still I Rise. Or when the Black Lives Matter kept on saying, I can't breathe. And if you have heard the publicity person of the new president speaking, one of the words that he used was, I can breathe now. Yeah. So I think let's not even give big terms like idealism. It's just to try and live your life on your own terms, in however small or big a fashion that is possible. So as long as we are, if you exercise the criticality and see the world for what it is and what it is buying into, and when we are critical, I think we are able to step back and heave a sigh of relief and keep your life going as you want it to. Thank you so much for that question. And also, I think each one of us has to work on creating a safe space, because we usually tend to take for granted. I always tell my students, at least in Stella, when I was teaching, that you need to have a bubble when you're in college. You need to have that nice little safe, cozy place where you can laugh, cry, fight, do everything. But the moment you step out of that, I'm sure all your teachers would have already told you, your parents must be warning you if you are in your second MA or third BA, that the big bad world out there is waiting to catch you. Now, what do we really do is we need to be consciously choosing the safe spaces. And mind you, this lockdown has taught many people, especially women, that the so-called family that we think is a safe space is not safe after all. Not for everyone. So don't keep looking in the same places that we are taught to look into. Look in places which could really provide that safe platform for us. And it requires a lot of labor, a lot of affection, a lot of love that goes into building a safe space. And I'm sure you will come up with something. It can be big or small, but you will come up with that. Should we relax and say staff members can bell the cat?
Ma'am, I have a question.
Yeah.
It is on theater. So theater has always welcomed people from all walks of life. It has even helped introverts to express themselves. Even I stand as an example for it. I'm extremely shy. It is very difficult for me to stand in front of people and talk. Theater has helped me to define myself. I just want you to express the cosmopolitan view of theater. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. I think theater has been one of the most ancient forms because people ascribe rituals to the beginnings of theater. So it must have existed from whenever human beings learned to imitate either a bird or a worm or a tree, anything. Yeah. So the moment you start, we all love imitation. I'm sure all of you have fun imitating each other, imitating your teachers. So it's a lot of fun. So I think the key word in theater is play. You play the play. And because you're approaching it as a game, as a play, as something that is fun, it doesn't really stifle you. And there is no right and wrong in theater. There are as many bodies as there are people. So it really kind of allows and expands the space, both the mental space as well as the physical space, to accommodate everyone. So unlike in especially classical music and dance, where they insist so much on training, all for good. I'm not against training, and I'm not for untrained theater either. So you do need training, but then theater really believes that whatever you bring with you is a resource for theater. It can be your voice, it can be your body, it can be anything that you bring is a resource. So I think theater really does that because theater makes you understand that, first of all, to look at yourself very, very positively. There is no way you're not. Then once you know to look at yourself positively and you love the person you see in the mirror, then there is no way the world is going to get to you, because you are beautiful. You know that you can do it. So theater is something that gives you that grip. And I think especially in a society where the givens of whether it is gender or caste or class is so determined, you can't walk with slippers on, you can't walk with the kind of clothes that you like to wear and walk on the streets. You can't probably walk in the midnight rain. It's a beautiful climate, let me just take a walk. And then there are people who are looking at you and saying, no, if you're a girl, you don't do it. If you're a Dalit, you don't do that. So when there are all these restrictions, theater is perhaps the make-believe space where you don't have to follow those rules. Yeah. So I think that is why it is liberating. It is liberating from within. It is not really waiting for somebody else to come and give you a hand. So we don't need Krishnas to come and save us. We can save ourselves. Thanks, Esther.
Ma'am, we have a few questions from YouTube.
Yeah.
So one question asks, what is your opinion about the mentality of people who think that men should not enter fields like literature or other fields of art. What is your opinion?
I think if you apply gender, it is suffocating and restricting both the normally identifiable genders, and the many other genders are still there. So I think it comes from the belief that there is something biological to do with your attitude. But I mean, I'm not so sure, and it's not genetic either. So therefore, I don't really subscribe to any of those prescriptions for that. You know, one of the things, I mean, I would stretch it further and say, not just the disciplines, but also boys don't cry, we say. If you don't cry, you will end up having a heart attack. You know, it's good that you cry at times, or at least know that you want to cry. You know, so there is a way by which I think we can really evolve a system of not really fitting into the pigeonholes. So I don't subscribe to that. Yeah, I have two questions, I think, on my chat.
Yes, ma'am. We have another question
Is
from
it
Sudesh.
Sudesh? Sudesh
Which
it
role,
says.
which
Yeah.
role of yours do you identify with the most, with the most? A comedian, theater personality, or an activist?
Mm, yeah. I've been asked this ever so many times, but the more and more I reflect upon it, I really think there is no lines drawn between these categories, you know, because one seems to feed into another. I feel theater has helped me in the teaching, and teaching has in turn helped me both in academics as well as my theater. You know, very often when I'm working on productions, I find my students the best touchstones. And thankfully, post retirement, I actually have some of my students on the team. You know, so it's a very good mix of theater people as well as students who have really joined the venture. So okay, I have a very interesting question from Nitin. Nitin, if you're English speaking, English is the English that you speak is an Indian English. And therefore, that doesn't in any way make you less of an Indian. You're certainly not, I don't know how good is your RP, but if it is RP, you have learned it. But the kind of English that you must have grown up with is the English that we all speak at home, in the mall, to our friends, you know. So just like how the Australians refer to mate, maybe you're using dude, you know. So there are ways, it is Indian English and it has nothing to do with the colonial English. So, I mean, you just have to kind of read up some of the plays by Dattani, for example, I would say, or I'm forgetting his name, the Bangalore-based English playwright, David Wesley. Can you help me?
Girish Karnad.
Okay, no, starting with an A new person who is doing device plays. He recently did a play called Salt. It'll come, the name will come. You know, so you see that they are using the English that we are using. So it doesn't really, I don't think you should connect it to, I mean, we have come very far from the colonial regime. We are now rightfully claiming the colonial legacy. The buildings, the language, the literature, everything. Abhishek Mazumdar, thank you. It says DC, thank you, yes. So look at Abhishek Mazumdar's texts, or look at some of the English texts that Nasruddin Shah is creating. You know, so you are, and I'm sure the Britishers are not going to call them or accept them as English. They will still call it an Indian play, mind you. Yeah, so I don't think there shouldn't be any alienation that you're really feeling. And your English will really become a lovely medley of many languages. Yeah. Okay, that's Christina. Okay. The tag of my work as survival then feminist. See, there is no one feminist way of being. So first of all, there are many feminisms, and there are many different ways of being a feminist. And so I just find this idea of, when people say, when you become the token woman that Adrian Reach is talking about, in a whole hall full of 50 odd men, they call like 4 women and you are one of them, and they say, oh, you have achieved something. I find that very hard to agree and believe, because I don't think I'm there because I have achieved something. I'm there because I have survived. Yeah, so it is in that sense that I'm talking about survival, so that it really gives me a way to acknowledge my own vulnerabilities, and also know, because feminist struggles are something that never end. Sometimes I feel even in caste, class, of course, you have a clear agenda and you know who to fight. And when you're talking about caste fights, caste struggles also, we can probably think of a model which is not easy, but which is going to be difficult, equally difficult, because the casteist mind is really, really difficult to unlearn things and come across. But then for women, I know for sure that when I'm here telling you all these things, we already have hatras. We already have umpteen other stories of sometimes even your own friends, or sometimes even within your own family. And, when Ballalar said, Vadiya Pairai Kandabodellam Badine. When I look at a plant that is withered, your heart just withers. So when you hear those stories, you know that you have just escaped something that must have happened like that. Yeah. So in that sense, it is in that sense that I prefer to think of my work as survival, even in theater, because there are a lot of ways in which you can be a theater person. I am interested in a lot of classical texts and I want to explore, and I try and do it in my classroom context, but I've never ever attempted to direct any of the classical plays. I have no luxury to really go into it, because the immediacy of theater that it's pushing me into are things like the Zoom play that we created, which took off from Black Lives Matter. I'm sorry, I think I'm sounding like a bundle of contradictions on bordering on pessimism, but I'm not. I think I'm a pathological optimist and I want to keep up that optimism and never give in or give up. Yeah.
Ma'am, we have another question on YouTube.
Yeah.
The question is, what do you think are the qualities that an aspiring writer must cultivate in himself or herself?
I mean, I'm sure by now all your teachers would have digged into your head. It is 99% perspiration and that 0.001% inspiration. So writing is all about writing and rewriting and the rigor of writing. I mean, you read up many of these writers who tell you that, if you go attend a creative writing or a critical writing workshops, they give you what they call as automatic writing. So you just put the pen to paper and you write for 10 minutes without lifting, even to put a full stop or a comma. And so it is that kind of discipline that I think one ultimately needs to write. Maybe the first spark of writing, like when you're dying to write something, or when some writing is waiting to get out of your throat, let's say, you just have to write it. which is usually the debut writing of many people. I mean, one of the examples will be Raghu Karnad's book, you know. So it is so much layered with a lot of autobiographical instances, and it is fantastic. And then he's sitting down to write the next book, and then he's taking his own time. Yeah, so it is, please give in. I mean, when there is that kind of a overpowering inspiration, I think you shouldn't hold forth. You shouldn't hold back. But at the same time, I think writing is all about discipline and labor. Very, very prosaic, very, I mean, it doesn't sound like a romantic job at all, but that is it. You know, you in all the Western universities, if you're attending a creative writing program, you would have written within the 2 years of your program at least 50,000 words, at least. Again, edited and sent forth, you know, so it is important. Yeah.
Ma'am, we have another question from YouTube.
Yeah.
How do we deal with individuals who stereotype gender roles even in this day and age?
I think they will learn it the hard way. Let me put it that way. Yeah. So when it really, see, if the person who is asking the question is a male, then it comes from a place of privilege. If the person who is asking from identifying herself as a female, it comes from a position of experiencing certain limitations imposed by people. So the way to understand is to know that this is coming from the fear of losing the privilege that the brother or the father or the grandfather or sometimes the mother plays the best patriarchal vehicle for the girls, you know, because the father will say, oh, you go for the tour, I have no objection. But then the mother will say, no, you're going with 20 boys. How can you go? You know, so the mother is becoming the mouthpiece of patriarchy at that time. So we have to understand that this is coming from a systemic notion of that. And when we understand it as a system, we would be able to at least sympathize from where it comes. And you take as much as you can. When you can't take it, I think you just have to face it squarely, eye to eye, and address it. However intimate and close the relationships are, and it's not easy, especially when it comes in the name of love. It is very, very difficult, which is exactly what happens when people are trying to bring up acceptable women, acceptable female role models, for example, where you know everything, but you don't speak out of turn. You don't even raise your voice. You just kind of keep your calm, keep smiling all the time. You know, all those norms that are imposed are systemic norms. So people have to really imagine genders in a different way. And I think people are ready. I don't know. I'm halfway through Surarai Portal, Surarai, the new film. And I think we've got a young, nice female director who is trying to really show the male-female relationship in a slightly different light, slightly more acceptable terms, you know. So she's not this whining person. She's also somebody who has her own vision and is able to kind of share the vision of the partner that she lives life. And I think one needs to experience equality to start trusting it. So when people say, oh, what will happen if you marry somebody who is more educated, taller than you, fairer than you, older than you, or younger than you, it comes from the fact that they can't imagine an equal relationship. But take it from me, that's the most beautiful thing on earth, to have a relationship that is equal and mutual. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am, for patiently answering all the questions and for expanding our thoughts and for giving us new perspectives on everything. Thank you very much. And also, we thank you wholeheartedly for that very thought-provoking and very inspiring address on going beyond the curriculum. I'm sure we've all had a great learning experience today. Thank you so much for that, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you all so much and all the very best for the rest of the academic year. Let not lockdowns trouble you. You can always find a possibility wherever you are. And I'm sure you will. I mean, you guys are the millennial kids, so you will know. You will find better ways than us. All the best.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the erudite and thought-provoking speech. I'm certain that it was a great learning experience for everyone present here, for the frontiers of knowledge have expanded. I request Shivani Pillai, the General Secretary of the ELF, to offer the vote of thanks.
On behalf of the English Literary Forum, I would like to thank God Almighty for showering us with abundant blessings and grace. I extend my earnest gratitude to the chief guest, Professor Dr. Mangai, for her insightful and erudite address on going beyond the curriculum that proved to be an exciting learning experience for all. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to thank our head of the department, Dr. Mekla Rajan, for her constant guidance and encouragement towards all activities of the ELF. I also extend my heartfelt thanks to the principal, Dr. Paul Wilson, for his encouraging address and for his constant support in all our endeavors. I also extend my thanks to the bursar for being equally supportive of the English department and of the ELF. I thank Professor David Abraham Albert, the president of the ELF, for his inspiring guidance and optimism throughout. I place on record my wholehearted thanks to Professor J. Arun Kumar and his technical team for their timely help with regard to the technical side of the inauguration. I extend my deepest gratitude to all our beloved professors for their continued support and goodwill, of which the ELF has always been a beneficiary. Additionally, I extend my thanks to Ms. Nandini Devi, the prayer secretary, and her team, Ms. Christine Jacob, and Ms. Sharon Glory for their sincere renditions of prayer. Last but not the least, I thank all the students who joined us today via Zoom and YouTube, for it is their cheerful enthusiasm and belief that has been the driving force of the English Literary Forum. We look forward to an exciting year ahead. Thank you all.
Thank you.